this video, we're going to talk about the high point ladder rescue. This is going to be an option for getting victims out of either an elevated window or even potentially ground or daylight basement windows. Specifically, if you have a large victim that's difficult to move or a bigger firefighter. One thing to note, this should be kind of one of our last resort options. The high point is going to be very resource intensive. You're going to need a rope, carabiners, you're going to need to tie a harness on your victim, as well as a ground ladder. It's also going to be personnel intensive. Generally speaking, you'll want at least 2 firefighters inside the building. You'll need 1 firefighter to at least climb the ladder and rig the system, and then descend, and either that firefighter or another can foot the ladder and run the rope. But ultimately, it's going to take a while to set up, it's resource intensive, and it's personnel intensive. So in this case, we have a victim in the 2nd floor window. We've decided that other options like the Denver drill or an enlarged opening are not going to work for this victim. So we've elected to choose the high point ladder. First things first, if you look up high, we'll be throwing that ladder about 3 to 4 rungs above the top of the window. That's going to give us enough room to work and rig our system, and then have enough throw or enough reach in our system that we can actually lift that victim up and out of the window. We've got that done. We've got this ladder secured. I threw a chalk in here just to keep this ladder a balance because this slopes a little bit off, so we got good 4 points of contact. Now we're ready to rig our system. So we've got at least 1, if not 2 firefighters inside packaging the victim with either a hasty harness or just preparing them to get moved. And I'm going to rig the system out here. So make sure this carabiner is unlocked. The important thing here is to run this rope underneath this bottom rung. This is going to come in handy later. And then I'm right-handed, so I keep this in my right hand, and I'll keep this on the beam as I travel up. And then I'll just go ahead and climb this ladder, making sure to keep this securely in my hand and ready to go. Obviously, you're going to want somebody to foot the ladder whenever possible and go from there. Okay, good. So, now I've climbed the ladder, I've got a footer. I made sure, again, before I ran up the ladder here, that I threaded this rope in between the 2 spurs and underneath that bottom rung. And I like to keep this in my dominant hand. For me, that's right. Whether left or right, doesn't matter. In order to rig this, we're going to need to actually come up through one of the rung spaces, and then we'll wrap over the top of 2 rungs. The common mistake you'll see people make is they'll just wrap over 1 rung here. And what we're actually trying to do is build essentially a 2-to-1 mechanical advantage system to help us capture the progress. So, in order to do that, we'll wrap over 2 rungs, and then if I've got a wide gate carabiner, I can reach back and clip to this rung. In this case, I don't have that. So what I like to do is just tie a quick clove hitch in right here, put this carabiner through, spin that tight. What that's going to do for me is prevent cross-loading this carabiner. So what I don't want to do is clip right back to this rope, because those carabiners aren't meant to take load across the spine. I prefer to rig it like so that my carabiner is loaded in line with that spine. Okay, now that I've got my system built like so, I've got this carabiner clipped in so it's loading in line with the spine, not cross-loading against that rung. I can make my 2-to-1 system. So right here, I'll take a spare carabiner, I'm going to clip this through, and I'm going to pass this in to my rescuer. As soon as they've got this clipped to the victim's harness, we now have a closed system, and I can descend the ladder. I'm not going to be helping by trying to lift the victim with them. I'm just going to be adding stress to that ladder, so I'll go ahead and descend. Okay, so from another angle, I'm going to bring this up on the outside of the beam. I'll pass this up through one of the rung spaces, and then I'm going to capture 2 rungs here, making sure that I'm keeping this secure, not dropping it. And again, Right here, if I don't have a wide gate carabiner to clip to this rung, what I like to do is just throw a quick clove hitch in. Like so. Spin that carabiner closed, and now that carabiner is going to be loaded on the spine instead of cross-loaded. Now I can go build my system. Right here is where you'll see that 2-to-1. I'll take my spare carabiner, put this in. Again, being careful not to drop it, because if I drop it, that carabiner is going all the way to the ground and I got to restart. So I'll take this, and I'm going to pass it into the window to my rescuers. Once they have that securely connected to the victim, I'll go ahead and descend, and then we'll proceed with the rescue. We've got our system rigged. We've got our firefighter outside who's managing the slack and going to be running our progress capture. So it's important to know that the firefighter outside is not actually giving us much of anything in the way of lift. They're just serving as a progress capture using this 2-to-1 system, and then also the friction of the rungs to capture our progress. So again, for those bigger victims where we're not able to get them up to the windowsill in one move, we're going to want to lift them part way, stop and reset, lift them part way, and in 2 to 3 moves we should be able to get them there. But that progress capture is going to be super important. All right, so again, moving this patient, I'll take their harness, get them up nice and close to the windowsill, and then as I lift, the firefighter outside is going to capture my progress. So I lift and stop. Lift and stop. So we're getting part way there. I can get lower on the victim now. Lift and stop. Reset. Maybe one more move to get them out. Then we can maneuver the legs out. And at this point, that ladder and that system are going to take the victim's entire weight. I'm now hands-free. The firefighter outside can add or subtract speed based on friction with that bottom rung. Firefighter at the bottom is going to be performing that progress capture. And I'm not assisting with the lift at all. I'm just capturing that progress by adding friction on this rung. Once they clear the windowsill, I'm going to end up taking the whole weight of this patient on this system and this ladder. They've now cleared the windowsill with the patient. I can go ahead and lower the patient down at my speed. If I want to go faster with less friction, I can come back. If I want to add friction, I wrap around tighter. And now we're on the ground. That's the high point.